back in late October of 2019. The kind of cold that bites the air and turns every breath silver. My best friend Matt and I had planned one last camping trip before winter made the mountain roads impossible. We drove out past Mount Hood, Oregon, into one of those forgotten parts of the map that barely even load on GPS, quiet, endless, and untouched. There was this hidden trail we'd found years ago that led to an old lake surrounded by tall black pines. No campsites, no signs, no people. Exactly what we wanted. We parked the truck, hiked for about an hour, and set up our tent in a small clearing that looked like it hadn't been touched in decades. The trees there were twisted and old, their bark rough and dark, like something that had been scorched a long time ago. Even before sunset, the forest felt heavy, like it was watching. The silence was strange, too. It wasn't peaceful silence, it was hollow. The kind that makes every little sound echo too loud. When the sun dropped low, the whole forest turned this burnt orange color, and the shadows stretched longer than they should have. I remember saying, "Something feels different this time." Matt just laughed. "Dude, it's just cold. You're overthinking it again." I wanted to believe him, but the uneasy feeling crawled up my spine and stayed there. We built a small fire, cracked open a couple beers, and tried to relax. For a while it worked. The fire popped and hissed. The tent glowed warm in the light, and everything felt normal again. But then, everything stopped. No wind, no crickets, no movement at all. It was as if the forest was holding its breath. That's when we heard it. The sharp snap of a branch somewhere behind us. Matt froze, flashlight in hand. "Probably a deer," he whispered, but I could hear his voice shake a little. Then another snap, closer this time. He shone the light toward the trees, and that's when I saw them. Two small white reflections floating in the dark. Eyes. They were about 6 feet off the ground, wide apart, completely still. Not blinking, not swaying, just watching. "It's probably an animal," Matt said again, but neither of us believed that. Those eyes weren't shaped like an animal's. They were too steady, too human. I turned up the lantern's brightness, flooding the clearing with light, and just like that, the eyes vanished. We stayed frozen for a long time. Then the forest came back to life, the crackling of the fire, the faint rustle of leaves, but something about it all felt wrong, like the rhythm of nature itself was slightly off beat. For the next few hours we kept hearing movement circling the camp, slow, deliberate footsteps crunching through dry leaves, stopping, starting again. Once, I swear I heard breathing behind the tent, deep, low, almost controlled. I held my breath, every nerve in my body tight. Nothing. Then a dragging sound brushed across the side of the tent, slow, scraping fabric. Matt whispered, "If it's a bear, don't move." But bears don't circle you. They don't breathe like that. Eventually the sound stopped, but we didn't sleep. Every few minutes we'd hear another crunch, another shift of weight. Always circling. Always closer. Around 3 a.m., a new sound joined in. Faint clicking. Like someone tapping two stones together. Once. Twice. 3 times. A pause. Then again. It came from deep in the woods, then answered by another clicking, farther away. I realized then it wasn't random. It was communication. When dawn finally came, the relief was almost painful. We stumbled out, pale and shaking, barely speaking. Behind the tent, the ground was soft with mud and there were footprints. Bare human footprints. Long, wide, and deep, circling the tent twice before vanishing into the trees. Some overlapped, like there had been more than one person. But they weren't normal. The toes were too long, spread too wide, almost claw-like. We packed in silence and got out of there. On the drive back, Matt didn't say a word. He just stared ahead, white-knuckled on the wheel. I tried to tell myself we imagined it, that it was just animals or bad lighting, but that uneasy feeling didn't fade. A week later, I came across a post online, someone camping near Mirror Lake Trailhead that same weekend. The title read, "Strange Figures Seen Near Mount Hood." They described the same thing, footsteps circling their tent, clicking sounds, and two bright eyes watching from the dark. There was even a photo, blurry, taken at dawn showing a tall figure between the trees, long, thin, and pale like bone. People in the comments argued, Bigfoot, hoax, camera glitch, but one comment stuck with me. It said, that area used to have ranger cabins in the 1960s. One burned down. The ranger's body was never found. Locals say something still walks those woods at night, carrying the smell of smoke and wet earth. I didn't believe in legends, but the way that night felt, it didn't feel like a story. It felt like being studied. Matt refused to talk about it again. He sold all his camping gear and moved out of state a few months later. I stopped camping too. For a long time I thought that was the end of it. But about 6 months later, on a foggy night, I was driving home from work. My apartment sits near the edge of town with a few small patches of forest on either side of the road. As I slowed at a red light, I rolled down the window to get some air. That's when I heard it. Click, click, pause, click. 3 sharp, hollow taps echoing from somewhere in the trees. My stomach dropped. The sound was exactly the same rhythm, the same pause between each beat. I looked around. Nothing. No people, no headlights, just darkness. The light turned green and I drove. Fast. When I got home, I convinced myself it had to be a coincidence. Maybe construction noise, maybe some kind of animal sound I never noticed before, anything but that. I went inside, locked every door, and tried to sleep. But around 2 a.m. I woke up to my phone buzzing. A notification from the security camera I'd installed on my balcony a few weeks earlier. Motion detected. I opened the app. The video was dark, but I could hear something in the background. Click, click, pause, click, the same pattern. Louder this time. Closer. The camera didn't show much, just shadows moving slightly near the edge of the screen. I turned on my living room light, walked to the balcony, and looked out through the blinds. The street below was empty. Not a single car. Not even wind. And then another sound. Click. It came from the window right beside me. I froze. Didn't breathe. The next click came slower, deliberate, like someone was tapping the glass from the outside. I forced myself to look, but there was nothing there. No movement, no reflection, just my own terrified face staring back. I grabbed my phone, replayed the recording again and again, hoping I'd imagined it, but each time the sound was clear, the same exact rhythm from that night in the woods. Click, click, pause, click. It's when I realized something. In the reflection of the window, faint, almost invisible, were 2 white points. High off the ground, unblinking. I dropped the phone. By the time I looked back, they were gone. The cops didn't find anything, of course. They said it was probably just a glitch or some kind of prank. But I know what I heard. I know what I saw. It's been years since that camping trip. I moved to a new apartment, new city, even sold my car. But sometimes, when I'm out late, walking past an alley or the edge of a park, I'll hear it again. Click, click, pause, click, always just far enough away that I can't tell where it's coming from. Always just when I think I've forgotten. And that's the part that really gets me, the silence right after. The same silence from the forest. Like the world itself is waiting to breathe again. So, if you ever find yourself camping deep in the woods near Mount Hood, and you hear that clicking sound, don't wait for it to stop. Don't shine your light toward it. Don't try to see what it is. Just pack up. Leave the fire burning, and don't look back. Tell me, what do you think was out there that night? Was it a person or something that never left those burned cabins? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if this story made your heart race even a little, hit that like button, subscribe, and check out my other videos for more true fall horror stories that'll make you think twice before camping alone. It was one of those nights where the rain doesn't just fall, it slams. The kind of storm that shakes the windows, rattles the walls, and makes every sound inside feel small. Late September. The air was cold, the wind was sharp, and the smell of wet concrete filled everything. I was working the night shift at a shipping warehouse just outside of town, one of those giant metal buildings sitting in the middle of nowhere. No houses nearby, no lights, just wet fields and that long, empty stretch of road. I'd been working there for about 6 months. The pay wasn't great, but the quiet made it bearable. My job was simple: sit in the front office, monitor the security cameras, and walk the warehouse floor every couple of hours. The storm that night was bad enough that I stayed inside most of the time. Around 2 in the morning, I was standing by the glass doors, watching the rain hammer the parking lot. The heater was broken again, so my breath came out in little clouds. It was so quiet that even the hum of the fluorescent lights sounded loud. That's when I heard it. A loud metallic clang. Not like something dropping, more like something bending. The sound echoed down the long steel aisles, deep and heavy, vibrating through the floor. I froze for a second, then grabbed my flashlight and called out, "Hello? Anyone here?" My voice bounced back at me, swallowed by the echo. No answer. The sound had come from the loading docks at the far end. I started walking that way, the beam of my flashlight cutting through the dark. Dust hung in the air, catching the light like falling ash. Each step echoed on the concrete floor, sharp and hollow. The deeper I went, the colder it got. Like the temperature dropped 10 degrees between one end of the warehouse and the other. When I reached the last row of shelves, I noticed something off. One of the garage doors was open just a few inches, letting the wind and rain blow in. A small puddle had formed under it, spreading across the floor. The wind howled through the gap, whistling that high, lonely sound that makes your chest tighten. Maintenance must have left it open, I muttered to myself. I stepped closer to pull it shut, and that's when I heard it, a whisper. Faint, buried under the storm. "Come here." I froze, my flashlight shook in my hand, the beam dancing across the metal shelves. For a second I thought maybe it was the wind, but then I heard it again. Clearer, slower. "Come here." It wasn't the wind. I took a step back, trying to keep my breathing quiet. "Who's there?" I called out. Nothing. Just the sound of dripping water from somewhere above. Then, from behind one of the tall shelves, something moved. A shadow. Human-shaped. The beam of my flashlight caught a glimpse of a shoulder, maybe a head, just before it ducked out of view. My heart started pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I didn't wait. I turned and sprinted back toward the front office, nearly slipping on the wet floor. When I got inside, I slammed the door and locked it. I called 911, stammering, "Someone's in the warehouse, please hurry." The dispatcher told me to stay inside, keep the doors locked, and wait. Those 10 minutes felt like an hour. I sat there in the dark, staring at the camera monitors, my pulse racing in my ears. Then it happened again. Another clang, this time closer, maybe 20 feet away. I killed the lights and crouched behind the desk. On the monitors, the cameras flickered, static for a second, then back on. I could see the aisles, the puddles, the empty shelves, and then movement. A man walked through the frame. He was tall, maybe in his 50s, wearing a dark jacket with the hood pulled up. In one hand he held something long and shiny, a knife. He dragged it across the metal railing as he walked, and the sound, that screeching, grinding sound, went straight through me. He stopped beneath one of the cameras, looked up, and smiled. Only, it wasn't a real smile. His lips didn't move right. It looked wrong, like he didn't actually know how to smile but was trying to imitate one. Then the camera feed froze for exactly 1 second. Then it jumped ahead. The man was gone. When the police finally arrived, the warehouse was empty. No footprints, no forced entry, no broken locks, nothing. They checked every corner, every office, every dock door. The place was silent except for the rain. One of the officers called me over to review the footage. He played it back. Every second matched what I'd seen, right up until the frame froze. Then he turned to me and said, "You sure you didn't edit this?" The timestamp had skipped forward by 1 second, as if someone had cut the tape. The only physical trace they found was a single wet footprint near the garage door. Barefoot. I quit that job a week later. Told my supervisor I couldn't handle night shifts anymore. He laughed it off, said, "Guess the ghost stories got to you, huh?" But a few nights later, one of the new guards called me. His voice was shaking. He said he'd been hearing metal sounds too, and that sometimes when the lights flickered, he saw a shadow standing between the shelves. Tall, still, just watching. I told him to get out while he could. After that, I started working day shifts at a smaller warehouse downtown. Nothing fancy, but I felt safer. More people around, more light. Months went by without anything strange. I almost convinced myself that night was just stress, a trick of the storm. Then came another storm, almost a year later to the day, late September again. Rain hammering the roof, the kind of night that makes everything feel too familiar. I was in the break room eating dinner alone when I heard it. Clang, metal bending. Distant but distinct. My stomach dropped. For a second I told myself it had to be a truck or a loose panel outside, but then it came again. Louder. Clang. I walked to the security office, half shaking, and pulled up the live camera feed. The main hallway was empty except for one thing. The camera glitched for a second, and in that flicker, I thought I saw movement. A dark shape near the far door. I blinked, leaned closer, and the feed went clear again. Empty. I stared at that monitor for almost a full minute before the lights in the hallway began to flicker. Just once, then again, then a third time. I heard it again, the clang, closer now, inside the building. I turned off the lights in the security office, heart pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. The sound of rain and thunder filled the silence, and then, faintly, something else. A whisper. "Come here." I froze. Every hair on my body stood on end. The voice was the same one from that night. Same tone. Same breathy rasp. I stared at the door, not daring to move, waiting for it again. But this time, instead of a whisper, I heard footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Getting closer. The sound of wet shoes on the concrete. I turned the monitor brightness down to see better in the dark. The camera feed glitched again just for a second, and I caught a glimpse of him, the same man, standing in the middle of the hallway, hood up, head tilted slightly to the side. He was drenched, water dripping onto the floor beneath him, and in his hand, that same long silver knife. He started walking toward the camera. I reached for my phone, hands shaking, and started dialing 911, but before I could hit call, every monitor went black. All except one, the hallway camera. The man stopped right in front of it, looked straight at me through the screen, and smiled that same broken smile. Then the feed went dark. I backed away, tripping over the chair. The building went completely silent except for the pounding rain. I don't remember running to my car, but somehow I did. I drove through the storm, not even caring where I was going, just away. Away from the sound, from the warehouse, from him. The police didn't find anyone again. No signs of a break-in, no prints, no damage. Nothing, just one door that had been unlocked from the inside. Now I only work daytime. Bright lights, busy rooms, people always around. But even then, sometimes when the air conditioner hums, it hits that same metallic note, low and hollow. And sometimes, late at night, when I close up the office and the building goes quiet, I swear I can hear it again. Faint, almost lost under the sound of my own breathing. Clang, the same sound from that night. And that's when I realize it's not the warehouse that's haunted. It's me. If you were in my shoes that night, what would you have done? Would you have run the moment you heard that voice, or stayed to see who was calling? Let me know in the comments. And if this story sent a chill down your spine, hit that like button, subscribe, and check out my other true horror stories that'll make you think twice before working the night shift again.